everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Faith, is my voice audible everywhere?
Yes, Nancy, you're audible and we can see you as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon from Kenya, and welcome to this dialogue on enhancing climate resilience, a reimagined approach to inclusive adaptation of women with disabilities. This dialogue has actually been organized by ICASA, Inclusive Climate Change Adaptation for Sustainable Africa, in partnership with Semi-Right Center for Minority Rights Development. And this work is actually being supported by Africa Development Bank, the Africa Climate Change Fund. So this is to welcome all of you. The dialogue will be taking exactly an hour, and we have two presenters who will be two discussants will actually be presenting their work based on a number of questions that we'll be asking them. Just to inform you that to ensure inclusivity, we have French interpretation on the lower side of your computer. You should be able to get to that. The round thing looking like a globe written on interpretation can be used because we'll be using English, but that should help you be able to get French or any other language. And as I said, we also have a sign interpreter. So thank you so much, Faith. We shall be watching a video first before we get to the presenters. My name is Nancy Rapando from WWF Africa Food Future Leader, and I'll be your moderator for the day. Thank you. Faith, is everything okay? Are you able to play the video?
Yes, Nancy.
Okay, go ahead. Are we expected to hear any volume from that side, or? Kindly mute in case you're not speaking. Ashad, can you mute? Faith, I cannot get any volume from your side. I don't know if this is for everyone or only me, or if we are not expected to hear, let us also know. Okay, thank you, Faith. Should I now progress? Okay, let's get to the dialogue now. I'm seeing Asad, your hand is actually raised up. I don't know if you can be able to write your concern in the chat box so that I can get it. But for now, I just want to move to introduce our presenters for the day. We have Ezibon Mobe, who is a Program Officer, Sustainable Livelihood at CAFOD and Trocare, working in partnership with CTP in South Sudan. Ezibon, are you there? Ezibon, are you there? Can we hear that you're there? And our second presenter is Nancy Marangu, who is the Communications and Public Policy Analyst, Chemichemi Foundation. Nancy Marangu, can you confirm that you can hear us?
Yes, please, Nancy, I can hear you.
Thank you so much. So we actually just want to start, and I want to give the two presenters a chance to introduce themselves as they actually start. So Nancy, can you please give yourself a better introduction from what I've given you? That will be followed by Ezibon, and then we can go into our question and our dialogue session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy, for the introduction. At Chemichemi Foundation, I hold fort for two responsibilities. One, I serve as the executive director, and on a role basis, I support communication and public policy. Why communication and public policy? It's because we serve persons with disabilities, and the greatest gap that exists between development and action and between policy and action is communication. And that's the reason why we are deliberate to ensure that our communication is accessible and it reaches as many people as we are able to communicate with while removing all types of barriers. Because, for example, I will just ask all of us on this call, if we are to close our ears for 2 minutes, let's close our ears. Let's close our ears. And I bring a lot of information to all of us without having the support of Mary Mwaura, our sign language interpreter. Who had anything?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who had anything while their ears were closed? That is the reason why at the foundation, we are intentional to ensure that we serve everyone equally and ensuring that communication, especially that which is in regard to climate mitigation, is consistent, is coherent, and it is inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy, for that introduction. I want to call upon Ezibon Mobe. Ezibon, are you there? Can you hear us? Kindly introduce yourself, and then we shall move to the first question. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. My name is Ezbon Kenyamorbe, and I work for Corporate Program Partnership in South Sudan as Program Officer for livelihoods. I'm a development and humanitarian practitioner at the same time, and I've been working in this field for the last 16 years. 16 years with CAFOD, but previously I was also having experience with other agencies. So my focus in the organization is just to look at the resilience aspect of our programming in different locations and how people are affected by different disasters across our program areas, and try to support our team to develop programs and projects that are responsive to different needs of the communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ezibon. My first question goes to you.
You're welcome.
Can we ensure that climate adaptation strategies are inclusive and that they effectively address the specific needs and challenges faced by women with disabilities in vulnerable communities? So, Ezibon, we have 5 minutes to respond to that. So the time is yours. Over to you.
Yeah, we can make sure that climate adaptation strategies are responsive and inclusive by mainstreaming all the people who are suffering from different sorts of disabilities into our programming, and we can only do that right from the program design stage. Remember, if you miss out to put it in the back of your mind that there are people in the community who are suffering from different types of disabilities, then you will not have any opportunity to bring them back when you are implementing the project. So the first entry point is the development stage of the project and the program. Make sure that your proposals and your budgets include activities that are targeted at those different group of people within the communities.
Okay, thank you, Ezibon. Have you dropped off, or I can go to the next question?
You can go to the next question.
Thank you so much, Ezibon. So my next question actually goes to Nancy Marangu. Nancy, you've said you're actually a communication specialist, and I think this is why this question is quite suited for you. And we would just like to know how technology and innovation can be leveraged to empower women with disabilities in adapting to climate change impacts, while also ensuring that they actively participate in decision-making processes. So this is all about leveraging on technology and innovations to support women with disabilities to adapt to the impacts of climate change, but also ensuring that they are part of the process in terms of making the critical decisions. So over to you, Nancy.
Thank you very much, Nancy, for the question. And I want to answer that question in 3 phases. The first one is technology. What technologies exist? I was looking at the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization website. Those of us who are in Kenya who have interacted with KALRO, they have all the applications that can be used by a farmer, by anyone. And the good thing about the KALRO website is accessible, implying that they've not just devised these technologies for the general population, but they are keen to ensure everyone is on board and they're able to use. But the big question is, do women with disabilities or any other person with a disability, do they have the technical know-how on how to employ and deploy these technologies within their daily operations? That's a question that we all of us need to ask. And from what we do again as an organization, the deliberate interventions that we are working to in collaboration with government and development agencies to ensure that it's done, we are trying to increase the awareness about assistive technology and service delivery. How are we doing that? We look for an organization, for example, the Digital Earth Africa. They have, number one, the infrastructure and the technical capacities. And we bring them on board to train the persons with disabilities to be able to use the technology by themselves. That is empowerment. The other thing that we try to integrate within our work is to create awareness on how to integrate assistive technology within the agriculture sector, because most of the times we only think about technology when it's maybe within the education sector, within the healthcare systems, but a lot of climate injustice effects stem from our farms. Most of these farms are owned by women with disabilities. The good question is, do they again have the capacity to use the assistive technologies? Then thirdly, there is need for training and assessment for what assistive technologies that has to be deployed, especially for women, because you'll find that different women with disabilities, they are specialized within different agriculture value chain. What may work for vegetable farmers may not work for poultry farmers, may not work for avocado farmers. The good question is, again, are we bringing these women together to build their capacity on the available technology? Number one. Number two, the assistive technologies that exist. And number three, are we finding out what exactly their need is? Or we work with the assumption, if we take this technology to them, it will work for them. And lastly, we have to work with developers to ensure that our technology is integrated and is adaptable and is inclusive. Because, for example, if Nancy, Tabitha, Faith, Mary, we are to be given AI to go and test it on our farms, we will have that discussion because probably we are able to see each other or we are able to hear each other. But we must remove our common shoes. We must put aside our common hats and ask ourselves if technology, for example, artificial intelligence, is to be deployed at a farmer group in Kakamega with women with disabilities, at a farmer group in Kiambu, where women who are deaf practice agriculture, what will they do for them? At the end of the day, it goes back to capacity building, technical capabilities, and we have to work together. No one can work in a silo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and for bringing up critical issues around assistive technologies, the need for assessments, and the need for trainings to be done, quite critical in order to make everything quite inclusive. So we just want to move to our next session on listening to some of the case studies of initiatives that have been effective in integrating women with disabilities into climate resilience programs, looking at what are the critical lessons and also the experiences out of these. So in doing this, I just want to invite Ezibon, who will be who will be giving us some of these case studies. So Ezibon, over to you. Thank you. Ezibon, you're muted. Can you hear us?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Sorry for that. Yeah, as you correctly put it, some of the case studies that we have are like in our programs, we apply the gender transformative approaches. These are approaches, the gender transformative approaches are approaches that have the methods and tools to empower women, including women with disabilities, so that they are able to do things the same way as their peers are doing in the community. There should be like no segregation of the people with disabilities. And with the gender transformative approaches, when we go out to the community to target, for example, during the targeting of beneficiaries, we create project management committees. These project management committees are comprised of women, and these women, because women in communities, they are the one who cares for people with disabilities at different levels of their families. So with women, they know exactly which households has a person with disability and which households doesn't have a person with disability. So these are the approaches that we do. And then we also create women and girls friendly spaces where these women and girls can come assemble every day. We construct for them these women and girls friendly spaces. They come there, they discuss their own issues, they share their own experiences, but we also do support them through awareness raising, stigmatization, because, you know, in communities, there are a lot of stigma and stereotypes about people with disabilities. So these things are addressed through those kind of structures within the communities, and they share their experiences. And in the process also, we provide them with some technical skills like training in handcrafts, income generating activities. And these are the people, because those committees are reformed at the community level. The project management committees, which are comprised of women, we set a criteria that for every committee, if the committee has 10 members, at least 10% of those members must be people with disabilities. So this offer a forum for people with disabilities to come out and share their own experiences. But not only that, also when the beneficiaries are registered, we ask the registration list to be put outside in the public places where everybody can come and see and check whether somebody is missed out with disability or not. And addition to that, also set up feedback and complaint mechanisms that are robust within the communities, so that anything that goes wrong at the community level, people can have that opportunity to complain and send their complaints to people who are managing the projects. And this is working very well. And we have seen, like, our projects, every time we go out, the number of people with disabilities are like increasing. We started with like all our programs we design, we say, you want to target 10% of this for the people benefiting from this project must be people with disabilities. But when we go out and do like monitoring, like post-distribution monitoring, we see the number increasing. So we came to realize that having women in the project management committee who are going through in the communities and identify people with disabilities was a very effective way of doing that. And I think we are doing that very well here.
Okay. Ezibon, I think that's fine. Thank you. And I think you do mention critical issues around dealing with stigma at community level and how you ensure that people living with disabilities are actually empowered, ensuring that there is quite an affirmative action to ensure that they are well represented, and also the different trainings and assessments that you do provide. So just to get towards the end of the dialogue so that I open up to the plenary for comments and questions, I just want to get back to
the internet. The internet is breaking. The internet is breaking. I didn't get you.
Thank you. I was actually getting to now call upon Nancy to respond to our next question. And I was just thanking you for having identified critical issues around dealing with stigma, technical trainings, and how you're working on income generating activities. Though I'm not sure if you had already finished your discussion or if I actually interjected. Had you finished or I interjected?
Yeah, I think you can move on.
Okay, thank you, members. Can you hear me very well?
Yes, please, Nancy, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so I think it's Ezibon's internet that is actually playing out. So Ezibon, thank you so much. Let me move to our next presenter. Nancy, the next question is actually to you. It is all around partnerships and collaborations. And just to get an understanding, from the work you are doing, how can partnerships between government, civil society organizations, academia, and the private sector be fostered to create a more inclusive and sustainable approach to climate resilience that caters for the needs of women and people with disabilities? So how do we actually bring all these stakeholders together to actually think about issues of climate resilience for women and people living with disabilities? So over to you, Nancy.
Thank you very much, Nancy, for that question. It is a very broad question. And I want to make reference to the African Union Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategy and Action Plan. And I will pose a question even to us who are on this call. How many of us have taken time to go through the strategy? What provisions does it have for all of us working within the same space of climate governance and integrating persons with disabilities? The strategy embodies everyone. And the good thing about the strategy, it has a reference point about government, and we all work towards implementing government policy. And my challenge to us is to find time and go through the African Union Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategy and Action Plan. Why? It makes provision for everyone equitably, be it the private sector, be it the non-governmental organizations, how we are supposed to work inclusively to embody everyone. And my challenge will be to all of us. The basic place to begin is to have an accessible website. I know we are many on this call from different continents, but the first place to begin to collaborate is having an accessible website. Why? This is where we are able to get information. Information enables and it empowers. Therefore, if we begin by doing away with the barrier of not having accessible websites, where all of us, I believe on this call, have websites, that is the first place we must begin by sharing, because when we share, we care. It's not about the big thing, it's the small thing. And when we do the small things is when we bring everyone on board. Everyone feels included. Everyone feels loved. Everyone feels accepted. One of my testimonies, even as I speak on this call, is I was given an opportunity by the United Nations Environment Program to do a course on water governance. My wow moment out of that course is that the platform is accessible. Anyone will do that course. Why? Because it advocates for climate governance. I am not asking for so much out of this call. For all of us within all the sectors that we represent on this call, my humble request, let's begin with the basic. Let's have our websites as accessible. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. And I think critical emphasis on the need for us to understand issues around a climate governance that will then allow us actually to be able to understand how we make things inclusive, but you also make a special reference towards using websites on making information accessible. But I know that we need to be cognizant of those who don't have some of these facilities. How do they actually access this information? We are talking about women, some of the rural women who actually are in very private spaces and not techno-savvy. So how do we actually use alternative technologies in order to ensure that they get the right information? So I actually want to open this session to the plenary to get if you have any question, but most important from the plenary, we are having different stakeholders working with grassroots communities. I'm seeing stakeholders that are actually working with groups of disabled people. I'm seeing people working with subnational governments. And we actually want to, as we engage, let us also explore the issue of policy frameworks and legislation measures that are needed to be developed or strengthened to ensure that we ensure meaningful participation of women and people with disabilities in climate adaptation planning and implementation, both at national, local, and also international level. So this is around how do we ensure that we actually having meaningful participation of women and people living with disabilities to participate in policy processes and planning processes, both from the local via national to the global level. So happy to get questions, but also I would like you to actually give us comments on how do we take our issues around women and disabilities into the climate policy processes. So over to you. I'm happy to see if we can raise any hands up. Nancy, your hand seems up, Nancy Marangu.
Yes,
Do you
please,
want
Nancy.
to add something?
Not really add, but just to emphasize on what you're talking about, the policy.
Yeah.
How do we integrate everyone on the policy table?
Yeah.
Or do we continue making policies for them and inviting them to validate the policy? And my challenge again to all of us who are on this call, the next time you have a meeting to develop a policy, invite one person that you do not know. A random person that you do not know. And especially persons with disabilities, they are capable, they are very intelligent. And we have to be deliberate to allow them to say it in their language, their local language. Even though it will require of us to accept them on the policy development stage with a translator or a caregiver, we have to be very intentional. And if we are not intentional, we will continue making policies for them. And most of the times, they will either know it exists or it does not exist. So it goes back to us. We have to be intentional on how we do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. You emphasize critical issues around participation. Do we speak for them or do we call them to speak for themselves? And you're really showing that we need to ensure that even within our policy making processes, we create adequate resources to ensure participation of people, disabled people in such processes. So thank you so much. I don't know if there is any other question. There is a question. Okay, someone is reminding me that it is not people living with disabilities, but people with disabilities. So thank you so much. Cromwell Lucorito, kindly over to you.
Nancy, thank you very much. And thanks, ICASA, for presenting this platform for us to really share these very critical issues around women with disability in the context of not only just farming, but also sustainable development. And I have just two concerns. I'm sorry if I will be repeating what already had been shared with us. And these are two areas. One is the issue around the complex and the diverse nature of disability, as it were. I don't know the practitioners on this call, how they have been tailoring the messaging to the
Okay, Cromwell, we cannot hear you. Is it only from my side? Can you hear Cromwell, or is it only me who is not able to hear?
We are also not able to hear him.
Okay, Sawa, thank you. So when he comes back, we'll definitely give him a chance. Cromwell, can you hear us? You actually have dropped off. Thank you. So I'm seeing critical wordings, like please also consider all the people who are most vulnerable with differently able people. And so we also having those who are saying, David says, nothing about us without us until we impress this slogan, then we will be good to go. So the issue of considering older people in this disability bracket is something that the team maybe needs to consider. I've been getting Asad Shina. Asad, do you want to say something? Asad Shina, are you able to speak?
Yes,
Brian,
ma'am. Yes.
yes, over to you, Asad. Yeah.
Can I hear?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I think disabled women empowerment in this Pakistan, as a disabled woman has the right to relation and motherhood effect, and appropriate may have to be adapt to stereotype, prejudice, and harmful practices. Support the empowerment women and girls this with disabled by investing in their education and supporting their transitions for school to work. He raised awarenesses programs on need for women and girls with disabilities and eliminate to and discrimination against them. And also my project is women child safe space, emergency women child safe spaces for the whole project team. And my machine, can you mind
Yes.
as about
Uh-huh.
hello, can I hear?
Yes, we can hear you. Continue.
Yes, about something the percentage of women affected in climate change in Pakistan, 80%. Women are more likely than men to be affected by climate change, as no studies show, and I think this is UN women figure. 80% people displaced by climate change are women. The role of primary and provide food as fuel make them more vulnerable and when flooding and occur. Empower women essential to health and social development, families, communities, and oral countries. When women are living safe, fulfilled, and productive life, they can reach their full potential and contribute their skill to workforce and can raise happier and healthier children. I think disabled women. I think I make sure emergency women child safe spaces centers for something surgeries and methodology. Make sure child club women, disabled child clubs, widows child clubs, and ads of equipment can make life easier and keep you suffer in you need them for your disability. It included things like wheelchair, scooters, hearing aids,
Okay,
glasses, and
Assad, kindly summarize because I have so many hands up and we need to finish in the next 10 minutes here.
okay. Okay. I think, ma'am, this ad and equipment can for what thing help disabled people. I think ads and equipment can make life easier and keep your support if you need them. Your disability. It include things like wheelchairs, scooters, sharing aids, glasses, and technology to help you communicate. Change to your home or where your work can also make it easier for you to do things. This is a strategies. This is easiest things for disabled woman, disabled person. He can they used to and easy for this disabled
Okay.
woman.
Thank you. Assad brings out very critical issues, especially on ensuring we aid people living, people who are disabled to actually be able to even access like the offices, be able to come to the meetings. How are we organizing the meeting rooms? Are we even having hearing aids? Are we even having mobility infrastructure to support them to come and be part of the processes? And he also talks about the need to increasingly create awareness and also invest in their education so that we continuously reduce the stereotypes around disabled people. So thank you so much, Shahid, for bringing up
Thank
all
you.
that. Cromwell, your hand is up. Are you back and are you able to communicate?
Yes, Nancy, I am able to communicate. Sorry, the plane was flying over my roof, so I got disconnected. Sorry for that.
Oh,
Yeah, I
sorry,
had raised
okay.
the first issue, and I think it has been tackled. The second one was around the beautiful policies that we already have. And I was just wondering if there are any deliberate efforts towards unpacking these policy instruments into consumable form of them on board, given the critical role they play in not just livelihoods, but also sustainable development. And finally, I believe we have some champion women with disability who, in my view, could be fantastic change makers. How are the practitioners enhancing their voices? Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Cromwell. You bring out key issues that for disabled people to be able even to participate in policy processes, both from local, national, and global level, we need to unpack these policies to to a way that they can easily understand. If a policy is actually in English and you have a deaf person, how are we using Braille? How are we ensuring that we are unpacking even to the deaf? We are unpacking this to those who are impaired with the hearing system. So that becomes very critical. And you also talk about the use of champions. And I think Ikas and Semi, right, probably you have a very big responsibility on documenting these champions and ensuring that you work with them towards unlocking critical barriers for people living with people with disability and women. The hands, I can't see the hands very well. I see two, but I can't even see them. Okay. Cromwell, your hand is still up. You have to put it down. I believe you've already spoken. Ezibon, I see you still want to make a point. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. I'll be very brief on only the 3 points. Number one is on the issue of policy. I think policy is a very important instrument that will enable people to really address the issues of disabilities. I think in some locations where we are working, we are lacking those kind of frameworks that can really enable people to deliver on their actions. So I think we need to take upon ourselves that we also need to advocate our people, our local governments, and even the national governments to ensure that we have policies in place for persons with disabilities. Number two is the issue of data. Data is also very important. It's important that we report persons with disabilities in every activity that we do. And those data should be disaggregated by gender. In every targeting that we are doing for people with persons with disability, we need to know exactly how many of those are female and how many of those are male. So that when we are talking about inclusivity of female with disability or women with disability, you should be know exactly we have talking from the point of view of the data that we already collected and we are able to share out. And then number three, which is the final one, is the issue of donors. I think we also need to think about how we can maybe advocate with donors, because issues like mobility of people with disabilities, when you go to those communities out there, you find people requesting for just wheelchair, which you see is fit and it could be provided, but when you go back to the donors, they say, no, we don't have money and we don't have very limited resources and we cannot provide for this kind of thing. So I think this is the summary that I can give, and thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that and bringing out how people and women who are disabled and women can meaningfully participate in policy processes. I see so many, I see a number of comments in terms of a critical vulnerability driver on water access, the need for that to be addressed in terms of climate resilience for women who are having disability challenges. Lois Kinyua says, thanks for the information. Persons with disabilities are more affected with climate change. One also talks about reasonable accommodation to disabled people. And I think document short stories of women with disabilities in rural areas and climate change. I think it draws us back to, again, our project system. Are we able to budget within our systems for people with disabilities? Do we ever think about them, that they would be coming to our meetings and they need special consideration? Even when we are looking at halls of residence or looking at our meeting rooms, are we really considering that? So there are different things that we are dealing with here today. We are dealing with how we include them into projects, but also how are we including them into the policy processes, which becomes very critical. I don't know if there's someone else who also still has a comment. We still have 7 more minutes. If you have a comment on how we can engage women with and people with disabilities in policy making processes, please, your comment is highly welcome. We still have 7 more minutes, so Kimutai, Eric, do you want to say anything? Because I've seen you doing a lot of writing in the chat. Lucy Mulombi, we're happy to hear from you because you represent some of these groups. There is also a comment about extension. In terms of how do we get our extension providers be sensitized on including people with disabilities within the extension programs, and that requires probably a lot of awareness creation, technology issues, that becomes very critical. So Kimutai, over to you. I'm seeing your hand raised up. Kimutai, over to you. You are muted. Kindly speak. Eric Kimutai. I don't know what's happening to Eric Kimutai. Eric, I think I am not able to hear from you. We are having 5 more minutes. If I cannot hear from Eric, I want to call upon my 2 speakers, Nancy and Zablon. If you are able to, oh my God. Cromwell, I still see your hand up. Do you want to say something before we close? Cromwell, do you want to say something before we close?
Yes, I was struggling, Nancy. Sorry to unmute myself because the host had not given me the permission. Yeah,
okay.
I've just come back because I realized we have some overflow time. And I wanted just to raise an issue around the effectiveness of our interventions, whichever way we are coming in from a project perspective. And the point I want to emphasize is the fact that having these PWDs on board from the outset, from the design phase through the implementation and even delivery and reporting becomes very critical. Because that way we are actually serving their interests but not thinking for them. So the point I'm emphasizing here is for us to embrace the co-design, co-implementation, co-production, co-delivery. So the core should be at the heart of our project designs. Secondly, I would want to echo the issue of integration of this category of people in the extension system, because it is easier to have others buy in when they see whoever they have been sympathizing for. The PWDs don't require sympathy. They all want to be integrated in whichever activities, in whichever projects, in whichever solution seeking that we are endeavoring to provide, especially in the context of climate action that is heading towards resilient stability. Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks a lot, Cromwell, for emphasizing the need for working together on co-creation and co-production of both policies and ideas. I want to call upon Joel. Joel, can you hear me? And Faith, can you please unmute Kimutai Eric so that he comes after Joel? So Joel, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm Joel Mudhui, Agriculture, Kitui County. Thank you for such information. I think there should be intentional kind of training for us extensionists to know more about this, the people living with disability and women. And from there, I think also resources should be there to help us disseminate the information, to help us reach more people, because I think we can achieve a lot. We can achieve a lot depending on type of disability for these people. In agriculture, they can really do a lot. There is a lot which they can do. So I think also a multi-sectoral issue should be considered. We can't do it alone from the extension side. We should involve everyone, maybe the administration, such people who could help us even identify who these people are. And I think that one will help us a lot to reach big number and bring them on board. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Joel, for bringing a critical aspect of how do we include people with disabilities into our extension system, because they are critical players and they also need a livelihood. And we know that in a continent like Africa, where we depend on agriculture as a livelihood, we cannot manage to leave them out. So Kimtai, have you gotten rights to speak so that you give us a final word before we close? Kimutai, are you able to speak?
Yes, thank you. I'm Kimutai. Yes. Okay, I'm Kimutai, one of the human rights defendant and also championing the rights for people with disabilities. One key point that I wanted to state is about people with disabilities not getting very enough information on requesting that way even in medias through maybe television or radio station so that they can be aware of their rights and also they can be helped to come on board so that they live like other people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kumchai, for bringing that out, that PWDs need to live like other people and they need to be increasingly supported. We've just come to the end of our dialogue. I just want to call upon the two speakers, Nancy and Ezibon, to actually just give a 1 minute parting shot what they can give us recommendations on how we can increasingly include PWDs and women into our climate resilience projects and policy planning processes. So over to you, Nancy, just for 1 minute or less, so that we close on time.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I could not agree more than what my senior Cromwell said. And my request to him is the next time a group of negotiators are meeting, it will be very, very important to invite women with disabilities who are climate action champions so that they are part of designing the negotiations. That's where we begin, using the platforms that all of us can reach to create a space for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Critical, let us all use the spaces we have to ensure we increasingly include women and people with disabilities. Thank you so much, Nancy. Ezibon, let's hear from you, just for 1 minute or less, a parting shot.
Yeah, thank you. I think as the starting point, as I said before, is the project design. When you are designing a project, you must have in the back of our mind that you have people in the communities that are living with disabilities, and especially the women who are disproportionately affected by climatic calamities. And then to be able to do that, also we need to have accurate data. We need to have accurate data where recording the people, beneficiaries need to know exactly how many of those are people with disabilities, and particularly which are, how many are women, so that we know exactly who we are dealing with within the community. And then, of course, for sure, like the showcasing problem, we also need to make sure that like the extension agents who are supporting those people, they should also be aware that there are people outside there who also need their attention in one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ezibon. I don't know if we have any closing remarks from ICASA or any announcement Faith, do you have any announcement or a closing remark before we officially close?
Okay, Nancy, from ICASA's side, I would like to say thank you very much for everyone that has attended this dialogue. Dialogues are actually continuous. They happen every month. So we expect to have another one in January on a date that will be announced. We will also share the recording of the last dialogue, which was in November, and this one for those that might not have attended. So thank you so much. We wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year 2024.
Thank you so much, Faith. I just want to give a round of applause to our presenters today, Azibon and Nancy, for having created adequate content to support the dialogue, and also to the plenary members who have listened keenly, took time away instead of starting their Christmas celebrations, and agreeing to come and listen and create a better pathway for PWDs and women within the climate resilience system. So thank you so much. And I actually want to thank ICASA, Africa Development Bank, Semiride, for putting all this together. Thank you so much. Asanteni sana from Kenya, and please enjoy your Christmas. See you during the next dialogue. Asanteni sana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas,
Enjoy the
everybody.
dialogue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting ilikuwa panjo.
Thank you.
Climate change could include women and people with disability. I think it's an open